Once native to the British Isles, the beaver has been absent from the UK countryside for over 400 years. But now, thanks to a few dedicated groups and individuals, the beaver is making a comeback and could be in the UK to stay. Up until relatively recently, beavers would have been found in every freshwater system across the UK. That was until we hunted them to extinction mainly for their fur and their scent glands. However, a few reintroduction projects are aiming to make the beaver a familiar face of the British countryside once more. We've travelled to Wood Valley Farm in the heart of Cornwall to meet Chris Jones, who runs the Cornwall Beaver Project, who have reintroduced beavers into a special 5-acre enclosure. We wanted to find out more about these remarkable mammals and how the beavers themselves are rescuing the landscape as well as other species. From helping to reduce flooding to improving habitats for wildlife, beavers are a species that could potentially benefit not only Cornwall, but the entire of the UK. They are known to be a keystone species, which means they benefit a wide range of other wildlife, from insects and amphibians to mammals and birds. Beavers create networks of water channels and dams which they dig and build themselves, and it's these that potentially hold the key to reduce flooding, as these vast wetland habitats not only hold water, but also slow it down. This simply means that during heavy rainfall, water doesn't flow as quickly into rivers, which helps prevent them from overflowing and bursting their banks. Not only that, but beavers can help make river water cleaner. By decreasing the water's flow, almost acts as a filter which causes soil sediment and pollutants to settle at the bottom of beaver ponds, which again is good news for the environment. So Chris, when did the beavers first arrive here?
They came to us in June 2017. After about 3.5 years of feasibility, doing baseline research and raising some money to build a fence. So it was a bit of a journey to get there, but June 2017 is when the beavers hit the water here.
How have the beavers changed the landscape, and what are the biggest changes you've seen here?
The fundamental change to start with was they raised the water levels in this pond. There was a pond here, it's now 4 times deeper and twice as big in area than it was before. But also they've created another 4 big ponds heading downstream, and they've started to branch out, and there's a series of ponds being created on a parallel line to the original stream as well. And then obviously you can see here there's tree stumps and so on around us, and they do fell a certain number of trees, which allows a lot of light to get into. You get more undergrowth and more interesting opportunities for other animals. So it's kind of creating not just biodiversity, it's creating structural diversity, which is so important in ecology. They are superb with water. I don't know how they do what they do, you know, the thought processes, or if it is just going on blind instinct, but they really do know how to engineer a landscape. The whole reason they build the dams is to create a certain depth of water. If this was a deep river behind us, say 1 metre plus deep, they wouldn't bother to do any damming. They would just have a burrow that goes in underwater and then up into clear air within the bank still, and that's where they'd have their young, and that would be their safety and their refuge. Because the water wasn't deep enough here, they then made it deep enough. In other words, they come to an environment which they kind of quite like, but it's not right on the water, and they create the water that they need to live.
So the landscape in the UK has changed dramatically over the last 400 years. Do you think that we will be able to coexist with beavers once again?
Well, I think a really good illustration is what's happened in Bavaria, which has an incredibly intensively farmed landscape. They're just everywhere, and they can make that work with competing land uses and so on by having a really good management structure, so that if there are any problems with the beaver, they can be sorted out quickly and efficiently and quietly, and everyone's able to carry on as before.
So in a way, the beavers are rescuing the ecosystem, which is pretty important, isn't it?
It is totally rescuing the landscape. You know, in Victorian times, pretty much across the country, headwaters like this were straightened up, put into deep ditches. Drainage networks were set up so that any rain was got away from here as fast as possible. And of course that means downstream of here, if you live in a village or something, then you get that rain really, really fast. And our local village, Laddock, floods. And it floods because we've affected the drainage up here so much. And now what we're trying to do is to undo the hydrological damage that was done in Victorian times.
But beavers aren't only restoring the ecology of the area, they are also creating new habitats for other species to thrive. So Chris, what's the rarest species you've seen here since the beavers returned?
We've seen water rails, we've seen polecats, neither of which are particularly rare, I think, of the whole country, but they're fairly unusual here still. But we've had 7 new bird records and 4 new mammal records here, and we're sort of seeing things all the time, really, new things. You know, any time you come down, there could be some new thing which you haven't noticed before, which is just delightful.
Since the beavers first arrived in Cornwall, they have done extremely well, and in 2018 had their first kits. The first beaver kits in Cornwall in over 400 years. And this year, Chris told us they've had kits again, so we stuck around to investigate. And it wasn't long as right before our very eyes, the entire family came out onto the bank to feed and groom one another. Adult beaver pairs are monogamous, meaning they mate for life, and most years they will have between 2 to 4 kits. The kits will emerge from the lodge at around 3 weeks old and will begin to explore their surroundings, learning everything from their parents about becoming little ecosystem engineers themselves. It's incredible to think just how one mammal is benefiting so many other species just by being here. I mean, beavers really are the unsung ecological heroes. And when we think of wild rescue, we often think of ourselves rescuing other species, but here it is the beaver that is saving wildlife. It just needed a little helping hand.